Abubakar al-Baghdadi. Leader of ISIS from 2013 to 2019, al-Baghdadi is considered one of the most brutal armed group commanders in modern history. Under his command, ISIS became what Al Jazeera called one of the most brutal armed groups in modern history, running a self-declared caliphate that terrorized millions. Born in 1971 in Samarra, Iraq, al-Baghdadi earned a doctorate in Islamic studies before being radicalized during the American occupation. After years leading insurgent cells, he seized control of ISIS during Syria's civil war. His vision was establishing a fundamentalist Islamic state through absolute terror. Al-Baghdadi's forces launched a genocidal campaign against the Yazidis. The UN classified it as genocide. ISIS massacred Yazidi men, enslaved thousands of women and girls for sexual slavery and forced conversions. ISIS even published price lists for slaves. Public executions became propaganda tools broadcast globally. His fighters beheaded hostages on camera, burned prisoners alive in cages, and crucified victims in town squares. The group destroyed ancient cultural heritage sites across Iraq and Syria. By 2017, coalition forces had retaken most territory. On October 26, 2019, U.S. Special Forces cornered al-Baghdadi in Syria. He detonated a suicide vest, killing himself and 3 children with him. ISIS killed tens of thousands and displaced millions during his reign. The Yazidi genocide remains one of the century's most documented atrocities. His death ended ISIS's territorial caliphate, though the ideology continues inspiring attacks worldwide. Joseph Kony. Leader of the Lord's Resistance Army since the 1980s, Kony is considered one of Africa's most wanted fugitives. The International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants in 2005 for war crimes, including the systematic abduction and use of child soldiers charges he still faces today. Born around 1961 in northern Uganda, Kony claimed spiritual possession and mixed Christian fundamentalism with traditional beliefs. He formed the LRA, claiming to fight for the Acholi people, but primarily terrorize them instead. His stated goal was a theocratic state based on the 10 Commandments. The LRA's signature tactic was abducting children. Human Rights Watch documented tens of thousands of abductions across 4 countries. Boys were forced to become soldiers and made to participate in killings to prevent escape. Girls became sex slaves for commanders. Children who resisted were mutilated or killed in front of others as warnings. In one raid, 139 students were abducted from a single school. The LRA routinely cut off civilians' lips, ears, and limbs to terrorize populations. Villages were burned systematically. Kony himself remained hidden for decades, rarely appearing even to his own forces. Despite multiple military operations and the viral 2012 Kony 2012 campaign, he evaded capture by moving through remote border regions. In September 2024, the ICC began unprecedented in absentia hearings against him. The LRA abducted an estimated 60,000 to 100,000 children over its existence. The group's activity declined after 2017. Kony remains one of the world's most wanted men. His current location unknown, possibly dead, possibly still hiding in Central Africa's remote jungles. Abubakar Shekau. Leader of Boko Haram from 2009 to 2021, Shekau is considered one of West Africa's most brutal terrorist commanders. His insurgency killed tens of thousands and pioneered the mass use of women and children as suicide bombers. Born around 1969 in northeastern Nigeria, Shekau joined the group that became Boko Haram and rose through its ranks. When founder Mohammed Yusuf was killed in 2009, Shekau assumed leadership and transformed it into one of the world's deadliest organizations. Boko Haram roughly translates to Western education is forbidden. Under Shekau's command, Boko Haram massacred entire villages across northern Nigeria and the Lake Chad region. The 2014 Chibok kidnapping, where 276 schoolgirls were abducted, brought international attention, but was one of many mass abductions. Shekau personally appeared in videos threatening the girls. His innovation was systematically using kidnapped women and children as suicide bombers. Girls as young as 7 were strapped with explosives and sent into markets and mosques. Between 2014 and 2017, over 400 suicide bombers were deployed. Most were women and girls. In 2015, his forces killed over 2,000 people in Baga in possibly Boko Haram's deadliest massacre. In May 2021, rival ISIS-affiliated faction ISWAP surrounded Shekau's hideout. Rather than surrender, he detonated explosives, killing himself. Boko Haram killed an estimated 35,000 to 50,000 people during his leadership and displaced over 2 million. Many Chibok girls remain missing. Shekau's tactic of using children as suicide bombers influenced terrorist groups worldwide. Bosco Ntaganda. Senior commander in Eastern Congo militias, from 2002 to 2013, Ntaganda is considered one of the region's most documented war criminals. Known as the Terminator, he received the longest sentence ever imposed by the International Criminal Court. Born in 1973 in Rwanda, Ntaganda joined militias during Central Africa's conflicts and became a senior commander in the Union of Congolese Patriots during the Ituri conflict. His ruthlessness earned him the Terminator nickname. He later served as a general in Congo's army before defecting to form the M23 rebel group. Ntaganda's forces systematically targeted civilians in Ituri province during 2002 to 2003. His militia attacked villages based on ethnicity, killing men and boys while abducting women and girls. The ICC documented him personally, overseeing massacres where at least 49 people died, including babies. Survivors testified about soldiers smashing children's heads. Sexual violence with systematic. Women and girls as young as 9 were held as sex slaves. The ICC found he personally enslaved multiple girls. Child soldiers were central to operations. Children as young as 11 were forcibly recruited and sent into combat. Those who tried escaping were executed in front of others. Former child soldiers testified about being forced to kill family members. In 2013, Ntaganda walked into the U.S. Embassy in Rwanda and surrendered. In 2019, the ICC convicted him on 18 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity. The ICC sentenced him to 30 years, the longest ever imposed by the court. He was ordered to pay over $30 million in reparations. He remains imprisoned in The Hague, with his case establishing crucial precedents for prosecuting sexual slavery and child soldier use. Thomas Lubanga Diallo, founder and leader of the Union of Congolese Patriots from 1999 to 2007, Lubanga is considered the first person ever convicted by the International Criminal Court. His trial established legal precedents for prosecuting the use of child soldiers. Born in 1960 in Ituri province, Lubanga was a businessman and teacher before becoming a warlord. As ethnic violence exploded during Congo's civil wars, he founded the UPC militia, claiming to defend his Hema community. His forces seized key towns and mining areas. Lubanga's UPC systematically recruited children to fight. His forces raided schools and villages, abducting boys and girls as young as 11. Children were taken to training camps, indoctrinated, trained in weapons, and sent to front lines. The ICC documented hundreds of child soldiers, some serving as bodyguards, others in combat operations. Girls faced additional horrors. Many became sex slaves while being forced to fight. Former child soldiers testified about witnessing executions and being forced to participate in violence. Beyond child soldiers, the UPC participated in ethnic massacres throughout Ituri, attacking villages and killing civilians. The conflict displaced hundreds of thousands. In 2006, Lubanga was arrested and transferred to the ICC. His trial began in 2009. In 2012, he became the first person convicted by the ICC for conscripting children under 15 and using them in combat. Lubanga was sentenced to 14 years, with time served counting toward his sentence. He was released in 2020. Shockingly, in March 2025, Lubanga announced formation of a new rebel group in eastern Congo. His release and apparent return to armed conflict raised serious questions about justice effectiveness in the region. Charles Taylor, president of Liberia from 1997 to 2003 and rebel leader before that. Taylor is considered the most senior leader ever convicted by an international war crimes tribunal. His support for Sierra Leone's Revolutionary United Front made him responsible for some of West Africa's worst atrocities. Born in 1948 in Liberia, Taylor studied in the United States before returning to Liberian politics. After being accused of embezzlement, he launched a rebellion that plunged Liberia into civil war, eventually winning a 1997 election under the notorious campaign slogan, "He killed my ma, he killed my pa, but I will vote for him." As president, Taylor sponsored the Revolutionary United Front in Sierra Leone's brutal civil war. The RUF became notorious for systematic amputations, hacking off civilians' hands and arms to terrorize populations. Taylor provided weapons and training in exchange for blood diamonds from RUF-controlled mines. Villages were raided with rebels offering choices: long sleeves, meaning amputation at the wrist, or short sleeves, meaning amputation at the shoulder. Thousands were mutilated. Sexual violence was systematic. Women and girls were abducted as sex slaves. The RUF recruited child soldiers on massive scale, forcing children to kill their own family members to break psychological ties. The UN court found Taylor knew about and encouraged these atrocities in exchange for diamonds. In 2003, international pressure forced Taylor into exile in Nigeria. In 2006, he was arrested and transferred to The Hague. In 2012, he was convicted on 11 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Taylor was sentenced to 50 years, effectively life imprisonment. He serves his sentence in a British prison. His conviction marked the first time a former head of state was convicted by an international court since Nuremberg. Sierra Leone's war killed 50,000 and displaced millions. Ali Muhammad Ali Abd al-Rahman Ali Kushayb, senior Janjaweed militia commander in Darfur from 2003 to 2004, Kushayb is considered one of the key figures responsible for implementing genocide in Darfur. His 2025 sentencing represents the ICC's first-ever sentence for Darfur atrocities. Born around 1957 in Darfur, Ali Kushayb was a local leader who became a senior commander in the Janjaweed Arab militias, armed by Sudan's government to crush rebellions by non-Arab communities. He led forces in Wadi, Salih, and Mukjar provinces, personally directing operations later classified as genocide. Kushayb's forces launched coordinated attacks on villages throughout Darfur. His units surrounded settlements, often coordinating with Sudanese military aircraft. Men and boys were separated and executed en masse. Witnesses saw hundreds of bodies in single locations. At Mukjar, his forces killed over 100 civilians. Rape was systematic. Women and girls were gang-raped during attacks, often in front of family members. The ICC found Kushayb personally participated in and encouraged sexual violence. He personally executed prisoners. The ICC documented him killing detainees with an axe at Mukjar police station. Torture was routine at facilities he controlled. Entire villages were burned in scorched earth campaigns, forcing survivors into camps. In 2020, Kushayb shocked observers by voluntarily surrendering to the ICC. In 2024, he was convicted on 27 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity. On December 9, 2025, the ICC sentenced Kushayb to 20 years in prison, the court's first-ever sentence for Darfur crimes. His conviction provides some justice, though many senior officials remain unprosecuted. The Darfur conflict killed 300,000 and displaced over 2 million. Omar al-Bashir, president of Sudan from 1989 to 2019, al-Bashir is considered the first sitting head of state ever indicted for genocide by the International Criminal Court. His campaign in Darfur represents one of the century's clearest cases of state-sponsored genocide. Born in 1944 in northern Sudan, al-Bashir was a military officer who seized power in a 1989 coup. He established an Islamist authoritarian regime. When rebellion erupted in Darfur in 2003, he unleashed systematic campaigns targeting entire ethnic communities. Al-Bashir's government armed and directed Janjaweed militias that terrorized Darfur. As commander-in-chief, he controlled both military and militias, carrying out coordinated attacks on non-Arab villages. The ICC found he designed counter-insurgency strategy, deliberately targeting civilians based on ethnicity. Sudanese forces and Janjaweed attacked hundreds of villages. Aircraft bombed settlements before ground forces killed survivors and burned everything. The pattern was so systematic the ICC charged genocide against the Fur, Masalit, and Zagawa ethnic groups. Mass rape was strategic. Over 2 million people were forcibly displaced to camps where they faced continued violence. The death toll from violence, disease, and starvation reached hundreds of thousands. The ICC issued its first arrest warrant in March 2009 for war crimes and crimes against humanity. In July 2010, a second warrant added genocide charges, the first time the ICC charged genocide. In April 2019, protests and a military coup ousted al-Bashir. He was imprisoned in Sudan, but never surrendered to the ICC. He remains in Sudanese custody, an ICC fugitive wanted for genocide. The Darfur conflict killed 300,000 and created one of the world's largest humanitarian crises. Ramzan Kadyrov, head of the Chechen Republic since 2007 with effective control since the mid-2000s, Kadyrov is considered one of Russia's most brutal regional strongmen. His forces have been accused of systematic torture, disappearances, and extrajudicial killings that Human Rights Watch argues amount to crimes against humanity. Born in 1976 in Chechnya, Kadyrov is the son of a former Chechen president. He initially fought against Russia, but switched sides, becoming Moscow's chosen strongman to control the rest of the region. His personal militia effectively controls all Chechen security operations. Under Kadyrov's rule, Chechnya became synonymous with human rights abuses. Human Rights Watch documented widespread torture and disappearances by forces under his effective command. Detention facilities operated outside legal oversight, where suspects faced systematic torture. Extrajudicial killings became routine. Critics, journalists, and suspected militants were murdered with impunity. In 2009, prominent human rights activist Natalia Estemirova was abducted and killed after documenting Kadyrov's abuses. The anti-gay purges, beginning in 2017, saw dozens of men detained, tortured, and some killed based on suspected homosexuality. Kadyrov's forces operate with complete immunity. No investigations result in accountability. He personally cultivates a personality cult, posting videos of military exercises and loyalty displays. The U.S. State Department designated Kadyrov in 2017 for gross violations of human rights, including torture and extrajudicial killings. Multiple countries imposed sanctions, but he remains firmly in power with Kremlin backing. Kadyrov continues ruling Chechnya as a personal fiefdom. He faces no international court charges, despite documented abuses. His forces participated in Russia's invasion of Ukraine, with Kadyrov personally sending fighters. He represents how warlord tactics can exist within nominally legitimate state structures when backed by powerful patrons. Mokhtar Belmokhtar, Sahara Sahel jihadist commander and smuggling warlord, active in the 2000s and 2010s. Belmokhtar is considered one of North Africa's most dangerous transnational terrorists. Known as Mr. Marlborough for his cigarette smuggling operations, he led groups responsible for major hostage crises and terrorist attacks. Born in 1972 in Algeria, Belmokhtar joined jihadist groups as a teenager during Algeria's civil war. He lost an eye in combat, earning the nickname the One-Eyed. He became both a jihadist commander and smuggling kingpin operating across the Sahara, funding operations through contraband trafficking. Belmokhtar led groups linked to al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb before forming his own brigade. His most notorious operation was the January 2013 in Aminas gas facility hostage crisis in Algeria. His fighters seized the facility, taking hundreds hostage. When Algerian forces stormed the site, 39 hostages from multiple countries were killed in the assault and crossfire. The attack shocked the world and revealed the vulnerability of Saharan energy infrastructure. France named him responsible for the November 2015 Bamako hotel attack in Mali, where gunmen killed 20 people. His forces operated across Mali, Niger, and Libya, launching attacks and kidnapping Westerners for ransom. He became one of the region's most wanted figures. Belmokhtar was reported killed multiple times. France and other nations announced his death in airstrikes repeatedly. Each time, he re-emerged, becoming almost mythical in his ability to evade death. His actual fate remains uncertain. The UN and multiple states treated Belmokhtar as a top transnational terrorist. His blend of jihadist ideology and criminal enterprise influenced Sahel security dynamics for over a decade. Whether he's actually dead or still operating remains unknown. Abu Muhammad al-Julani, Ahmed al-Shara, founder of Jabhat al-Nusra in 2012 and later leader of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, al-Julani is considered one of the Syrian civil war's most significant insurgent commanders. Despite efforts to rebrand, he remains designated a terrorist by the UN, US, EU, and Turkey. Born around 1982 in Saudi Arabia to Syrian parents, al-Julani grew up in Damascus. After the U.S. invasion of Iraq, he joined al-Qaeda's Iraqi branch, gaining combat experience before returning to Syria when civil war erupted in 2011. He founded Jabhat al-Nusra as al-Qaeda's official Syrian affiliate. Al-Nusra became one of Syria's most effective rebel groups, capturing territory and establishing governance. However, the U.S. designated it a foreign terrorist organization in 2012. The group conducted suicide bombings, executed prisoners on camera, and imposed harsh Islamic law in controlled areas. Rivalries with ISIS led to brutal infighting among jihadist groups. In 2016, al-Julani announced breaking from al-Qaeda and rebranded his coalition as Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. Despite the rebranding, HTS remained listed as terrorist organization by international bodies. The group was accused of executions, repression of rivals, and civilian abuses in Idlib province, where it established control. After Assad's fall in December 2024, al-Julani became a central power broker in Syria. He attempted presenting himself as a pragmatic leader rather than extremist warlord, giving interviews and promising inclusive governance. Al-Julani transitioned from designated terrorist to de facto Syrian leader, though international recognition remains uncertain. His past as al-Qaeda affiliate and HTS leader creates legitimacy questions. Whether he genuinely moderated or simply adapted tactics for power remains hotly debated internationally. Nuruddin Adam, senior commander in the Seleka coalition in Central African Republic, Adam is considered one of the main figures responsible for the 2013 sectarian violence that devastated the country. The ICC issued arrest warrants for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Born in Chad, Adam became a senior commander in the Seleka, a predominantly Muslim rebel coalition that seized power in Kar in March 2013. The coup plunged the country into brutal sectarian violence between Seleka forces and anti-Balaka Christian militias. Amnesty International identified Adam among the main commanders responsible for atrocities during Seleka's seizure of power. His forces launched systematic attacks on civilian populations, killing thousands based on religion and ethnicity. Villages were pillaged and burned. Mass displacement followed the violence. Hundreds of thousands fled their homes. Torture was systematic at detention sites controlled by Seleka commanders. The ICC investigation documented Adam's role in directing operations that included murder, torture, and persecution. The violence he helped unleash created a cycle of revenge attacks between religious communities that tore CAR apart. In August 2022, the ICC unsealed arrest warrants for Adam on charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity, including torture. Human Rights Watch welcomed the warrants as important steps toward accountability for CAR's violence. Adam is believed to be at large, wanted by the ICC. His location remains unknown, though he's suspected of operating in the Chad-Sudan CAR border region. CAR's conflict killed thousands and displaced over 1 million people. The country remains unstable, with multiple armed groups controlling territory. Adam's case represents ongoing efforts to hold CAR warlords accountable.